And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition of ESL Open Cup Asia number 212. That's a lot of ESL Open Cups. Welcome, everyone. I'm, of course, host VIP, and I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat and these amazing players as well. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the back of yourselves, as we have quite a stacked bracket. A lot of really good matches are going to be going on, and I'm so very torn right now. I'm very torn because I believe this week we're currently the only English stream. So it's personally, I would typically like to avoid other streams and try to cover as much ground as we can, but alas, we are the only English stream, so I'll do my best. I'll do my best to you know, kind of follow these players and bring you as much StarCraft as I can here in this ESL Open Cup. And here we go. We have our first matchup. We have our PvP, and spawning in the top left-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have the red Protoss player representing himself, currently teamless. It is PartinG. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the blue Protoss player representing the Kwangdong Freaks. It is Stats. Here we go. Our PvP is upon us. Now, to be transparent, of course, there's another PvP that's about to start, that is Hero versus Creator, and I was going to jump on Hero versus Creator first, but unfortunately, Creator is MIA. Hopefully he does show up. Hopefully he is able to compete and play out his series against Hero, but unfortunately he is still missing in action, and well, as opposed to waiting for a potential player, we had another series that did open up, and that is, of course, this one. A different PvP, a very different PvP on the lower half of the bracket. Again, exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the back yourselves. We will go over the brackets momentarily after we wrap up this best of three. And here we go. Again, great to see these two players here once again. I do appreciate that PartinG has been a little bit more active recently. He's been playing in KSLs every now and then. He's been playing in ESL Open Cup Asia and Americas every now and then as well. He has been popping up, and he hasn't been doing too poorly either. He has been having some pretty interesting upsets, to be honest. Some pretty interesting upsets. I think the biggest one was, I want to say last week in ESL Americas, he did take down Byun, which was crazy. Did fall to Clem. Actually, I think this was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, took down Byun, but fell to Clem. Likewise, has been having some middling success here in the Korean weeklies as well, and yeah, it's been really cool to see him return to the game and return to form. I'm still yet to really pin how like consistent his play is. It's still a little bit up in the air, like when it comes to how he rises and how he falls, but you know, it's really cool to see him return. Likewise, we have Stats, who's been back for around a year so far already. Has of course joined Kwangdong Freaks, was a part of WTL, and he's been looking to improve, but likewise, Stats is more of a part-time player, as most of the players on the Kwangdong Freaks are. He does have other commitments. He, I believe, does have an IRL job that he does focus on, and he plays StarCraft part-time. But I'm really curious to see how they face off and how they play out. Both players, 2 gate openers into an expansion. No proxy, no cheese, no one base all in. Not for the time being. So far, both players are mirroring each other. And talking about the players themselves, I know Stats has an old reputation of being, you know, the shield of iron and non-stop macro play. I mean, to be fair, he has been trying to replicate that in the past couple of weeks, in the past couple of months, but in PvP he has shown us that he's willing to be aggressive. Like PvP specifically, he has shown us that he's willing to be in your face and willing to be aggressive at times. This is the matchup that I would say both players are probably best at right now. We speak about this all the time when it comes to returning Korean military players. Players like DRG, Gumiho, Stats as well, Classic, Hero, how typically when they return, their best matchup is the mirror matchup, just because it's changed the least over time. That isn't as applicable for TVT nowadays, but when it comes to the ZVZ and PvP, like again, it's a matchup that, you know, has kind of stood the test of time, and as a result, you know, it's kind of like riding a bike a little bit, and our players can kind of flex a little bit more in this matchup. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. As of now, we are getting into our Robo follow-up. We do have our prioritization of Blink. Blink is on the way. PartinG going to be first to take his third base. Going to be playing quite macro-oriented here, and with the Hallucination Scout, Stats will confirm this as well. So I do appreciate that for the most part, both PartinG and Stats have this opener and have this PvP down pat. It's all about scouting, all about hallucinations. We need to get a read on when and where the third base is. We need to make sure that there's no hidden tech, make sure there's no dark shrine, no fast gateway explosion, no fast robo. We are keeping an eye on each other, and PartinG is the first to push. Remember, he does have the faster third base. Stats' third was more reactionary than his opponent's. And looking at the units tab here, ooh, we do have a slight Stalker lead here from PartinG. He does push it, does focus on the sentry. Nice pick off there from PartinG. At the same time, gets a second sentry for Stalker. Still though, 2 for 1 or 1 for 2 trade. Not too bad here for PartinG. Shield battery does finish, so even though Stats has the Stalker disadvantage, he does have enough to push us back to force us away. He will force back the Stalkers. Immortal production has commenced. Behind this, we have a bit of a later robo for PartinG, getting into slightly later Forge as well. So it's a bit of a give and take here. Stats, he's got like the slightly faster Immortal and +1 upgrades. Meanwhile, PartinG has a slightly faster economy as a result. And you can see that reflected here in the worker counts. PartinG, he is up a handful, soon to be five probes here compared to Stats, which is pretty big. It's pretty huge here, and as long as he's able to hit his upgrades, as long as he doesn't, push in too prematurely, then he should be able to keep up with Stats. But Stats, again, his big advantage is his Immortals. Maybe slightly behind in Stalkers, but the Immortals do pack quite a punch here. They make up for any kind of Stalker deficit. And Stats should have a Stalker deficit here just because PartinG has the better economy. He's already maxed out, or I say he's maxed out. He's already saturated here at his third, working towards a fourth. And again, is soon going to be boosting up his production and boosting up his army as a result as well. Meanwhile, behind this gateway explosion, we're getting set up here on 3 bases. Hallucination does confirm the lack of 4th base. That's what PartinG is specifically looking for, at least here at the linear location. Soon we'll be checking the right-hand side as well, as it is about to move out. And it's been pretty passive so far. It's been very passive so far in this PvP. Standard openers into a 3rd base, into 4th base here. Stats just 1 step behind when it comes to this 4th base timing, but nothing too major as we're building up towards Stalkers, Immortals, Charge Lots, Archons, all things Protoss. Now the question becomes, I mean, we should be sticking with this tech for the time being. Nice denial of the hallucination there from Stats. But we should be sticking with this kind of composition for quite some time here. Of course, we can try to tech up into Disruptors, but it's a little bit too early for that, as PartinG is soon to push out. Both armies do get eyes on each other. Good pick off as well. PartinG did snipe the Observer. Just like that, PartinG does have map control here, or he does have map vision in the center, and Stats is going to have to replace that Observer and try to vie for map control himself. As we are just going to be chilling here, just saturating our bases. 4th bases are getting up and running. PartinG still maintains his, did maintain his lead. I mean, his is already up and running. Meanwhile, Stats about to finish up, and PartinG is pushing. He does catch a Stalker. Ooh, gets one. Clutch blinks there at his. Stats does avoid the others. The Observer once again is going to get sniped as well. So good moves here at a PartinG, picking up 1 or 2 extra units here, being quite efficient with his movement. Archons are amassing. Remember, we do have Immortals here for Stats. Does have that advantage. Does pick away at the army here. PartinG does get eyes on the 4th base. Does rotate back around. Shield battery finishes up just in time. And with the shield battery, we do have an overcharge. Stats does have a pretty big defender's advantage here. But PartinG, he does not want to turn back around. He's going to be committing, warps in a massive wave of Zealots. We are lacking Archons here, which is what I'm concerned about. And oh, there we go. Another Archon is on the way. Archons, they help so much when it comes to dealing with all these Zealots. When it comes to dealing with this wave of Protoss. We do have that second Archon finishing up. Meanwhile, Stats is a bit out of position here. Again, not having that Observer is huge. He doesn't see the rotations. He cannot keep up, or he's having a hard time keeping up with PartinG. Likewise, PartinG with his Observer, he knows exactly where Stats is, knows where he can and cannot push. Here we have an option here. We have, as the Observer does finally get picked up, Observer goes down. Stats, he dives on the army as well. The Zealots, they do clash with each other. Archon's going ham. And it looks like we do dive on top of the Prism, and it's going to be focused down. The Warpin does finish, though. The Warpin barely does finish, and with the help of these Immortals, can Stats break through? It's still so close. Zealot's doing a great job of just tanking shots, but with the defender's advantage, Stats, he's going to be able to take the fight. He's going to be able to break through the Zealots, get on top of the Archons, the Immortals. They reign supreme here, and Stats will force PartinG back. Again, Stats, he had the better engage overall. His Archons were trading so efficiently against the Zealots of PartinG. And again, these Immortals, they did help so much towards the end there when it came to focusing down Stalkers and focusing down those Archons. And just like that, Stats, he has a pretty good lead here, an army lead. Economies are similar. PartinG has extra gases compared to his opponents. That's where those extra probes come into play. Stats, though, takes another base here, and with his prioritization of minerals, he can kind of focus and hyperfixate on more Zealots. Meanwhile, the Immortals survived. That's also what's important here. All 3 Immortals did survive for Stats, which means he can snowball out of control. He does have that supply lead, or that army quality lead even. Let's be careful. Oh, the Stalkers! They get caught out. The Blinks are not their big pickoffs. 4 Stalkers go down. Good moves there out of PartinG. You know, we do see Stats rotating over. Ooh, runs into a wall of Zealots. Now, what's important here, as we're focused, hyperfixated here on Mass Zealot. No more Stalkers, by the way. No more Stalkers here for PartinG. He's getting into his own Immortal production as we speak as well, to catch back up. Is that with all these Zealots, Immortals aren't actually that important here. It's about the Archons. Immortals, they nibble away at Zealots more than anything. And Archons are that much more important. I'm concerned because we only have 2. Only 2 Archons here for Stats. Focusing on his upgrades, focusing on +3. Armies are about to clash. PartinG, he does catch out the Prism once again. Up! Get no Stalkers. No Stalkers, the Archons, yeah, they're a little bit too far back here for Stats, and PartinG, he takes a better fight, catches out the Zealots. And Stats, he's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble right now. The shield battery goes out. We do have a second shield battery behind this. We do have an overcharge, thankfully. We can hold on. PartinG with double the Archon counts. Again, so many Zealots here. The SimCity's helping a little bit, but alas, it is just a numbers game, and PartinG is up 20 supply. And again, where it matters most, PartinG does have the lead here. With Archons, with all those Zealots. Immortals, they don't matter as much, not against this kind of army. Yeah, the Nexus goes down. And with this, PartinG is going to be able to overwhelm. Stats didn't have a bad start. He was able to take a good fight initially, but alas, we do see PartinG breaking through. Takes down the Archons. Zealot reinforcements coming in. These Immortals are still going ham, though. They're doing what they can. But these 3 Immortals are the only units left here for Stats. GG gets called. That's all he had left. And PartinG will take game number 1. GG. GG here. Again, the army kind of... The compositions for both Stats and PartinG, they did kind of evolve over time, and as the game did progress, it was all about the Archons, all about those Zealots, and unfortunately, Stats didn't quite actually have the gas income to afford extra High Templar. I was actually looking at his bank, I was looking at his gas. He actually didn't really have a lot of gas left over, despite the fact that he was, again, focusing on, oh. Despite the fact that that Stats was able to win that first fight, he didn't have extra gases, so he actually couldn't quite afford High Templar. He didn't have the extra gas for it. He was lacking those gases at the 4th base, and that's something that PartinG was able to flex on his own end with a better economy, better gas income, able to have a better army, higher quality army there. And with that, we're going to be able to get into our next game. Bam. Into game number 2. Also, it looks like there's another English caster. It looks like Wardy has joined us. Yeah, it looks like Wardy has joined us. So I didn't even need to be. So he's gonna be jumping in mid-series and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Hecate. We have our red Protoss player leading the series 1-0. It is our returning ex-military Protoss, PartinG. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the blue Protoss player representing the Guangdong Freaks. Down in this series, looking to fight back. It is Stats. Here we go. So we are settling into this. Probes going to be sent out across the map. We're going to be loading into Hecate again of all maps. Quite a defendable map here. quite a defendable map here where, again, there are just so many choke points available towards the center of the map. The rush distance by ground is quite short, that is true, but we have seen quite an amount of longer games here on Hecate. We'll see how our players will adjust, though. We'll see how they'll adjust. We'll see how they will look to shake things up here. Again, to just mention that it looks like Wardy has arrived. And if he's going to continue on with these players, and if he follows them into the next round, then we will most likely peel off and head over towards a different portion of the bracket. I did mention at the start that typically we like to split up. Typically we like to spread out and make sure we cover as many matches as we can, especially if there are only 2 English streams here tonight. Would be less than ideal if we did cover the same games. So most likely we'll be heading over. Looks like we'll be heading over and jumping over to another series if that's the case. There's some other really good matches. Again, there's Hero versus Creator. There's potential Dark versus the winner of that series as well. Dark versus Hero would be amazing. There's potential for Solar versus Beyond, which is like another really good ZBT. So we'll see kind of where we do end up heading. Meanwhile, behind this, again, 2 gate openers all around for both Stats and PartinG. And our Stalkers are on the way. So nothing too fancy here. There's no proxy, there's no cheese. We do see PartinG throwing down a pylon just to get a read on the first 2 units, and it is going to be double Stalker out of Stats. It is going to be double Stalker. Likewise, behind this, we're going to be delaying our expansion, going for a faster Stargate. So a bit of a more aggressive opener here out of Stats is not all in by any means. Stats should still be expanding, but he is going to be going for some Oracle Harass. It's going to be Adepts alongside Oracles here for Stats. Meanwhile, across the map, we do have just a safer opener here out of PartinG. Going to be going for a Twilight Council as a follow-up, and here come the Hallucinations. Now, with this Hallucination Scout, as long as he avoids the Stalkers, which he does, he's going to be able to dip into the main base and get a read of what is going on. He's going to be able to get eyes on the faster Stargates as well as the Oracle being produced. So a big moment, a big scout here for PartinG. Going to be able to throw down those shield batteries in time, and there it is. Shield batteries are on the way to make sure that the Oracles don't get any damage done. Solid stuff here from PartinG. Really good scouting. Meanwhile, as we do get behind this, as we get into our 2-base saturation, we do see Stats pushing on forward here, but there's a shield battery already done. PartinG should be safe and sound. It does wall off in time. Adepts do not make it into the main base. We are going to be looking solid. As they continue to shade in towards that main. Able to wall off as well. So far, PartinG is keeping up. Oracle heads in towards the main base. We could even go straight for that probe. Yeah, the probe is going to be going down. Perhaps they aren't quite able to commit here, and it looks like the Oracle finds a second worker. 2 probes. That's damage. And we don't take any hull damage to the Oracle either, so not a bad start here for Stats. At least he's able to gain some value here with his Oracle, despite the fact that he got scouted, as long as he doesn't lose it. Meanwhile, back at home, ooh, we have additional gateways. Okay, we're going up to our 3rd and 4th gateway here for Stats, and I'm curious if we continue. As the second Oracle has arrived, we get another couple of probes. 3 workers will go down. 3 workers will go down. Likewise, Adept's going to be shading over towards the right-hand side. Once again, we're able to wall off. And I'm pretty sure Stats does intend to commit here. Again, you wouldn't really get up to 4 gateways this early on without good reason. And I feel like the reason is they hit a timing here with Blink, which is going to be building up that Stalker count and moving out across the map. At the same time, PartinG going to be delaying his own production here, and soon I imagine to be taking another base. Oh, does come across his Adepts. Oh! And it looks like he barely will shut them down. We saw it was so close to killing that sentry. Alas, the sentry lives. The Adept does fall. PartinG, he has control of his side of the map so far. Stats looking to take a 3rd base. I'm going to be skipping a warp in, takes a faster 3rd. I think that's the big thing here that we were able to scout as both Oracles go down. We got a handful of probes, but losing 2 Oracles, not quite worth it here. We were checking, we were looking for the 3rd base, assuming that it would be taken, but no, PartinG is the one pushing out instead. how the turns have tabled. PartinG, he hasn't been skipping his warp ins. He has been hyperfixated here on his army. PartinG does have a Stalker lead. Oh. PartinG, he's up in Stalkers, pushing up the ramp. Stats. A little bit unawares. He does miss his force fields. I mean, we blink up anyway. No Guardian Shield. And Stats. Oh, he's in a lot of trouble right now. Force off the overcharge. With it, he can force this back. Does lose a good chunk. Does lose a good chunk of Stalkers. PartinG rotating around. Does check. Does confirm the third base. He expands behind this. Takes his own third. And again, PartinG, he does have the numbers on his side. It can take a bit of fight here, especially without the overcharge. Yeah, another Stalker goes down. Another 2 Stalkers go down. Trading blow for blow here. We are going to be trading as PartinG is forced back in the end. And Stats will hold on to his third. And just like that, again, PartinG, he was up, I want to say, 5+ Stalkers earlier. He was hoping to do more damage. He was hoping to break this third base. Alas, PartinG is now behind in his third base timing, behind in the economy, and soon to be behind in the army. PartinG went behind. Dark Shrine. Dark Shrine is on the way here for the Protoss, for our red Protoss player. And he does actually avoid those Stalkers. He avoids the main army. He gets across the map. Force to recall, though. Is forced to recall. Shield battery goes down. Good pick off there from Stats. Gets a couple of probes. Dives on top of the army as well. Stats knows he has the advantage. But it's still very close. Oh, forced to recall in the middle of the fight here is going to lose a lot of Stalkers. Stats, he does pull back. But he still maintains his worker lead. Has a better economy. Can sustain some losses here. As long as he doesn't lose too much of these adepts. Speaking of, adepts, they are going to be shading in. The 2 adepts, they do one-shot workers. 2 workers in total. Oh, we get a third. Not quite a 4. 3 probes go down. PartinG, tying things up. Pushing out on the right-hand side. Going to be threatening the third base here of PartinG. Oh, sorry, of Stats. Gets a probe. Behind this, we can see our transition here. Both players working towards charge, working towards Archons. Just like the previous game, Charge or Archon will fare better here, or can be more efficient. And is what they're both going to be working towards. I like the previous game, Stats doesn't have that big immortal advantage that he once did in game 1. Both players going to have much more similar compositions here. Oh, his PartinG is getting punished a little bit. Does lose an extra Stalker. PartinG trying to find another as well. Doesn't quite get it. Behind this, oh, 2 adepts, they shade in once again. A charge not quite done. We do get a surround. But that's going to be 6 dead workers. And just like that, for the first time in quite some time, PartinG takes a worker lead in this game. Does manage to get that back. Stats instead taking a 4th base, building himself up. Similar to the last game, we're just going to be chilling things out here and building up towards Archons and Zealots. But again, what are the compositions going to be looking like? What's kind of the ratio going to be looking like as well? As you saw previously, PartinG with the higher Archon count was able to snowball out of control and just annihilate those Zealots. Going to show how important those Archons can be. So both players just going to be calming things down, building up. Building up overall. On Stats with the slight supply lead. Moves out. PartinG's able to keep up. Able to force him back. And there we go. The Archon's now on the way. We spoke about this before, but one of the big features here of Hecate is just how congested like the center of the map can be and how difficult it is to push out. A big reason for this isn't just these choke points, but also these points of elevation, these ramps. All these ramps are so difficult to push into. It's so difficult to be the aggressing player here on this map, and that's why we do see quite a lot of longer games here on Hecate. You'll be down in supply, but hey, if you have the high ground, if you have a better concave, then you can still take a fight. saying that the army size here of Stats is getting a bit out of hand. This time, there we go. 3rd and 4th Archon on the way. PartinG behind this, trying to get into Immortal production. Taking a more defensive stance. Army is spotted. At the same time, a Zealot on the left-hand side, and PartinG trying to be proactive, trying to engage. Again, has to be very careful with how he does so. Oh, as he bleeds out a Stalker, bleeds out 2. Bleeds out 2 Stalkers. Stats looking to max out here with a pretty insane army. Jesus. He's up in Archon, he's up in Zealots. PartinG is supply blocked. Oh. Yeah, PartinG just also pylon here towards the right-hand side. Did get supply blocked, trying to tech up into Disruptors. I mean, that'd be amazing, but he needs time. He needs time for Disruptors. Stats is going to be rotating around. PartinG trying to keep up with him. It's a bit of a role reversal from the previous game where PartinG doesn't have map vision, doesn't have map control. We dive on top of the base. Stats backs the hell off. I don't think that would have been the worst fight, but does retreat in the end. It's the hell out of there. Let's pull back again. Stats, he is about to hit 200 supply. PartinG, he's slowly catching up, is down in supply, but is on the way. 2nd river for double destructive production. If he can survive, if he can come out with these Disruptors, then he can hold. PartinG is trying to keep up, forces back the Protoss army of Stats. 3-3 is on the way. Stats hasn't teched, by the way. He's still committed here to this Charger Archon composition. These Disruptors from PartinG, they're gonna catch Stats a bit off guard, and they're on the way. They're arriving. They're here. At least one of them is. We have at least one of those Disruptors. Show us the Novas. Novas soon to be going up. Here we go. Both players going to be dancing with each other. We have 2 more. Stats getting ready for triple disruptive production as he's also getting into his own robotics bay. But PartinG did get away with taking up a little bit faster. Take up faster, take up harder. Stats, he's up a base. But PartinG has caught up. Now, Stats has a larger bank. Because of the base, like, he has a massive bank to work with. Mineral bank specifically. But if he takes a couple of big Novas to the face, then PartinG can still snowball out of control. First Nova sends back the army. We have 1 more in the chamber. We have another Nova available. We have 3 even. Oh my god. And PartinG dives on the army. Going for the push. Nova goes off. Oh, it doesn't quite connect. Good split. Good split out of Stats. The Archon's going to be going ham. PartinG trying to chase this down here. Zealots are going to be melting for both players. Oh. Once again, the Nova just zones back the Archons. Do you manage to get one of them down? And you can see PartinG just bullying back the army here. Disruptor is still on the way for Stats. He has a wall of cannons, a wall of shield batteries. Here we go, the Novas go up. Once again, not quite connecting. We have Stalkers on the left-hand side trying to shut down that Prism as well. And pushing into all these cannons, into all these Archons. It's not going to quite work out here. PartinG trying to force the issue, but pushing into this defensive position, it's not going to work out. PartinG is going to lose everything here. Ay, ay, ay. At the same time, Zealot run by across the map. Stats, he takes a big fight. And Stats, he's snowballing out of control. PartinG, big overextension, pushing into a wall of cannons and shield batteries. Like, that was not the play. And Stats, he didn't even need his own Disruptors, to be honest. Didn't even need them. Takes a better fight anyway. Disruptors, they have arrived, and PartinG has almost nothing left. We do force some friendly fire. But despite that, Stats, he's got double the army supply. More than double. GG gets called, and Stats will tap the series 1-1. GG. A surprisingly passive game there between our players. Obviously there were like advantages for either player. Stats, of course, up a base, up an economy. PartinG was able to rush into Disruptors and had a really good fight initially. He had a really good fight. He forced the army back. But PartinG, I imagine, felt very all in. Because he was down a base, he felt like he had to take a fight then and there. But again, did overextend, did lose his advantage, did lose his tech advantage, and everything went south from that point forward. GG, we're going to the ace match. We're going all the way to game number 3. We are going to be going the distance here. And looks like we have our third game, and it's going to be on Alcyone. Let's go. Let us go. Meanwhile, the rest of the bracket is progressing, and we'll go over the brackets once we wrap up the series. Once the series is wrapped up, we'll go over it, and we can catch up with some of these other matches. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. And here we go. We're getting into game number 3, and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Alcyone, we have a red Protoss player, a returning ex-military Protoss. It is PartinG. Sorry, I just sneezed. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have the South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing the Kwangdong Freaks. It is Stats. Here we go. Again, it's a little bit surprising, but this PvP has been, again, more passive than I'm used to seeing, especially amongst the Korean Protoss players. Both PartinG and Stats have been building up towards 3, even 4 base economies, been building up towards the mid-game. Very much so mid-game oriented here between these two players, and we'll see if that trend continues on Alcyone. And I imagine it will. I do imagine it will, just because of how large this map is. There's a lot of bases to be taken. There's, once again, a big defensive advantage as well. Rush distance by ground is longer on this map compared to Hecate, so would not be surprised if we get another similar game here, 3 games in a row. Just getting into the mid-game, getting into Charge of Archon. At least we saw PartinG, again, rush into Disruptors the way that he did. It will spice it up a little bit more and tech up. As we saw, you know, he may have had the quote-unquote better army at a time, but he had the worst economy, and I guess he did feel quite all in with how he was playing. With that, we are now just going to be easing things into game number 3. It's going to be a 2-gate opener from both players, as to be expected. We'll see how we do kind of vary things up when it comes to our initial units. And there it is. It's going to be... Wait, what? It's going to be double Stalker here out of Stats. We have Zealot Sentry from PartinG. This is not seen too often at all. Usually we go double Stalker, double Adept. We go Stalker Sentry, and yeah, there we go. I was a little bit perplexed, but it looks like we were making the Zealot just in case, you know, there was hyper aggression or some kind of cheese or proxy coming in. There is none, so we cancel the gateway as we get confirmation across the map, and we open up single sentry. Very greedy opener here out of PartinG. Very fast expansion as a result, just because we skip out on the second unit. Essentially, we skip out on the second unit, get a faster expansion, and looking at the vision here, Stats is aware. He does see the greedy economic opener of PartinG. The question becomes, we just catch up here. We just go for a delayed expansion instead. So Stats will have the slightly later base, but will not be going all in. Will not be going to try and punish his opponent. I mean, I say that. Stalkers are moving out. Stalkers are revealed. They chip away at the hallucination. PartinG is going to be able to defend, though. His goal here is to survive long enough for the shield battery to finish. Shield battery is done, and PartinG will swat this away. Stats? Hello? Behind this, PartinG going to be going into a Stargate opener as well. Looking to go for some Oracle harass. Hallucination comes in, and we do get eyes and make sure that there is no hidden tech. But speaking of hidden tech, we do have that proxy pylon. We can warp in aggressively across the map. Stats being as active as possible. Dancing with the units here of PartinG. But unable to really break through. He's got 2 more soldiers on the way. Up, up! Stalker getting very low here, and stats, he loses 2 immediately. 2 Stalkers. Likewise, he takes down 2 Stalkers of PartinG. PartinG, did we overextend? He just wasn't expecting that warp in here across the map. Shield Battery Overcharge is popped, but Stats, he can focus it down. Shield Battery does fall. Stats, he did lose a couple of Stalkers in the process, but he's got reinforcements on the way. Good target firing here out of PartinG. Does focus out one of those Stalkers. Does try to get another. 2 more Shield Batteries in production, finishing up just in time. Oof. Yeah, trading 1 for 1. Stats slightly ahead here in their overall Stalker count. At the same time, here comes the Oracle. No Shield Battery, no defensive warp in, and probes are going down. Stats, he's committed. Yeah, there's nothing he can do. GG gets called. PartinG with the checkmate. Comes across the map, eviscerates the economy, and PartinG will advance on to the next round. GG. GG, well played. That was so unfortunate, but Stats, he was just woefully underprepared for the Oracle, was not aware of the Stargate behind it, and had nothing at home to defend. Was forced all in, and knew that he couldn't all in, especially with the second Shield Battery finishing. GG. GG, well played. And with that, we can actually take a moment here to go over the bracket. Can take a moment. Again, exclamation RP in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the bracket yourselves. Again, a big win here for PartinG. As was stated previously, PartinG and Stats are pretty comparable players just because they're both relatively, newcomers or returning players. I say relatively. If I'm not mistaken, I believe PartinG still hasn't done his military service. If I'm not mistaken, like he did take a break from StarCraft, but it wasn't for military, if I do recall correctly. But regardless, it was cool to see these returning players face off once again. Oh wait, no, my apologies. Did conduct his military. Oh, my apologies. Did finish at last month. There you go. There you go. So yeah, basically 2 players returning from the military, and they're pretty comparable in skill. Of course, Stats has been back for a longer time, but I did mention before that Stats, even though he's been back for almost a year, he isn't full-time. Like, he isn't practicing full-time, he isn't streaming either, so he's not necessarily monetizing, his return, and yeah, as a result, isn't quite at the level that he once was, and hopefully he can get there again. I do hope so, but it does depend on whether or not Stats does want to commit in such a fashion, or maybe he'll be committing a little bit harder in another esport, in another game, another RTS. Stormgate on the horizon, Zero Space on the horizon. We'll see. For now though, we can have a moment to have a look at the bracket.